Hi, Ashley here with hearthookhome.com, and today is week 5 of the Advanced Tunisian Crochet Workshop. This week we are learning how to increase in Tunisian crochet. You can see that I have these 2 leaf patterns in front of me that are included in this week's installment of the workshop. You'll want to follow along with the patterns to create these beautiful leaves. You can use a cotton yarn to make them as coasters for a fall coaster, or you can use acrylic like I have done here, maybe hang them from the fireplace as a bunting with an orange and a yellow and a green leaf for fall would be beautiful. Now you can see that the shape of these leaves looks almost identical. So if we lay them on top of each other, they are almost exactly the same size, right? But you can see that the look of them is completely different. This one looks much more realistic. This one is very clean and pretty, but not as, realistic, right? To increase in Tunisian crochet, all you have to do is you have to add an extra loop onto your hook in the forward pass, and that's it. That's all you need to do. Now, how you can add those loops, there's many ways that we can add them. So let's take a look at a piece of Tunisian crochet together. Here I've got the first half of another leaf worked up, and I am looking at these Tunisian crochet stitches. We can see that in the forward pass, we create one vertical loop. So in that vertical loop there, we've got the front vertical bar, and then we've got the back vertical bar. It's kind of hard to get into, but that is the back vertical bar. Now on the backward pass or the return pass, when you're knocking all of the stitches off of your hook, you're essentially creating a chain that goes through those vertical loops. So in that chain, we've got the upper bar here. We've got the lower bar here. If I can snag it. That's a lower bar. And then we've got that back bump like we always do when we make a crocheted chain, right? So we can either pull up an extra loop in the front vertical bar, the back vertical bar, the upper bar, the lower bar, the back bar. We can go into the space around the stitch, or we can simply do a yarn over, and that adds that extra loop to your hook. Let's try this together. To start our leaf pattern, we are going to start with a foundation single crochet of 5 stitches. So I'm going to chain 2, insert my hook in that first chain made, and pull up a loop. Now that I've got those 2 loops on my hook, I'm going to chain 1, and then yarn over, pull through 2. That is 1 foundation single crochet. I'm going to do it again until I have 5 of these on my hook. Now that I've got my 5 foundation single crochet stitches, I am ready to do my increasing here. Now there are 2 different kinds of increasing as far as these leaves go that are included in the workshop for this week. First, we've got this one that we're going to work up now, and this is more of a chevron style increase where the increases are always on either side of that centermost stitch, running right up the center of this leaf. I think that's what makes this one look so much more realistic. Now here, we'll do this one next. This is where we increase on the outside here and over here. So we're always increasing on the outsides and then building the height of the leaf. So that is the difference in these 2. First, we're going to try the chevron style here. To start our leaf, we're going to do our first increase as a yarn over. So as we know, the loop on our hook always counts as stitch number 1 in Tunisian. So if I yarn over, that's technically loop number 2, right? Because we've got 2 loops on our hook now. So now I'm going to insert into my edge stitch here, which is just the outside of that single crochet. Just like that. And so now I've got 3 loops on my hook, which means that my stitch count is now 3. So I'm going to chain 1 for my return pass, and I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Beautiful. Now we've got those 3 stitches, right? Doesn't look like much, but it will, I promise. Now we are going to increase. So now we have 3 stitches. This centermost one here, we need to place an increase on this side and on this side. So we are going to increase, and by doing that, this time I'm just going to yarn over. Like I said, you can increase by going into this space. You can go into the top bar. You can go into the back bar. You can increase however you like. For this purpose, I'm going to yarn over. That is my increase. And now I'm going to do a Tunisian simple stitch in that next stitch there. I'm just going to pull up that loop. And now I need to increase again. So I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to pull up a loop in that edge stitch here. And now we've taken our stitch count from 3 to 5. Do your backward pass like normal. Now we've got those beautiful 5 stitches. As you can see, the yarn over here, and it might become more pronounced the farther we go along, as you can see, this yarn over here is almost at a diagonal. When you yarn over to increase, you will always be sitting a little bit at that diagonal there. And so you need to be mindful of that next time you go through. Sometimes those increases can look a little bit hidden. For the next row, I'm going to do a simple stitch in this one. I'm going to increase on this side of the centermost, do a regular simple in that one, and increase on this side of the centermost stitch. Let's do it together. Tunisian simple stitch in this first one, right here. So now we've got those 2 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over as our increase. We're going to pull up a loop in that centermost vertical bar. We're going to yarn over as our increase and pull up a loop in this next vertical bar. This is last row's increase, so it's sitting at a little bit of a diagonal. Beautiful. And now 7. Pull up that loop in the outside stitch. Beautiful. And now we've gone from 3 to 5 to 7 stitches. Backward pass like normal. Voila. Now we're going to take that to 9 stitches. Remember that we're always increasing on either side of that centermost stitch right here. So we're going to increase on this side of it, and we're going to increase on this side of it. And that's going to keep the increases going up in the center here. So I'm going to do Tunisian simple stitch in this one right here, and in this one that we just created last row. Now I'm going to yarn over, increase, go into that centermost stitch. Now I'm ready for another increase on the opposite side, so I'm going to yarn over there. I'm going to pull up a loop in that last row's increase, pull up a loop in the next vertical bar for our Tunisian simple stitch, and then pull up a loop in our outside stitch here, our edge stitch. So now we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 loops on our hook. Backward pass like normal. Now we are ready to take it from 9 to 11. So we're going to find the centermost stitch again. We're going to do an increase on the right side and on the left side. So we've got a Tunisian simple, simple, simple. This is the increase from last row. Now we're going to yarn over, go into the centermost stitch, pull up that loop. Now we're going to increase, so yarn over, pull up a loop in that next. You can see that it's a little bit at a diagonal. That's what I mean when I say you kind of got to hunt for it sometimes. And now we're just going to simple all the way to the end, pull up that edge stitch, and we should have 11 stitches on our hook. We're going to do this until we have 13 across. And if you are following along with the Tunisian Advanced Workshop, this is week 5, and next week we are learning how to do the decreases at the top. So we are going to leave our leaf pattern. We're going to do, this is row 6 that we just completed. All right, let's take a look at what we've got. So we've got our 5 foundation single crochet stitches down here. Then we've got row 1, which had 3, row 2 had 5, row 3 had 7, row 4 had 9, row 5 had 11, row 6 has 13 stitches. We are adding 2 each row. Now I'm going to do rows 7 through 11 as solid, no increasing, just to get that shaping. This is the same exact thing that we've got right here, just with those extra solid rows going up. You can see where I stopped doing my increasing here, and I just started going straight across in those solid rows. So next week, we are going to use this pattern to start decreasing at the top half here. So we're not going to do that part yet. Leave it right halfway done, and we will pick back up next week. I do encourage you to use different techniques. Instead of doing this yarn over here, I do encourage you to use a top bar only. So this one here is made not using yarn overs, but instead I went into the top bar of that return pass. So what that means is that instead of doing my yarn over here to pick up these loops, I went into, I'll do one with you. Pretend like we're going across. This would be where I need to do my increase, right? If I were going to continue increasing this pattern. Now, I could increase using this upper bar here and just pull up a loop like this. That would be fine. I'm adding an extra loop to my hook, so that is sufficient, right? Or I could use the top bar of that return pass here to pull up that loop. And how you pull up these loops, sometimes when you do the yarn over specifically, you can have a little unsightly hole where you did that yarn over. So that's something to think of too, that if you are trying to make those holes as inconspicuous as possible, try a different portion of the stitch. That's as easy as it is. What we could do instead as well, so we could have gone into the top bar, that upper bar, we could have gone into that back bar, we could have gone into the back vertical bar, which is hard to get into, or we can pull up a loop in the space before that stitch. Remember, we talked about that as well. Like I said, though, some of these leave those unsightly holes that you might not want to have in your project later on. So feel free using this pattern to increase in a various or multitude of ways so that you can see how that affects the overall look of your finished piece. Now, let's work up a leaf together that looks like this. So where we're not doing the increases in the center, we're only doing the increases on the outside. Let's work this up together. To make the leaf where the increases is only on the outside, we are starting the pattern the same. So we still have these 5 foundation single crochet stitches. The pattern starts the same for the first couple of rows, and then things take a turn, literally, right? So we're going to do our yarn over, go into that edge stitch there, and pull up that loop. And now we are ready for our backward pass. So we've got our 3 stitches. We're going to chain 1, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. There are our 3 stitches. Now we're going to increase, do a simple and an increase. So we're going to do our increases as yarn overs again. So we're going to yarn over, that's our increase right there. Tunisian simple stitch in that centermost right here. And now we're going to increase again by doing a yarn over, and I'm going to go into the edge stitch here. So if we look, we've yarned over twice in this row, so we should have 2 more stitches, right? So now we've gone from 3 to 5. So I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2, all the way until we get to the end. So now we've gone from 3 stitches to 5 stitches. Let's go to 7 stitches. We're going to increase, so we're yarning over in that first stitch there. Now continue your Tunisian simple stitches until you run out of stitches, right? This one here. Now we're going to increase by yarning over and go into our edge stitch. Pull that loop up. We've gone from 5 to 7. Backward pass like normal. Now we've got our 7 stitches. We're going to increase to 9 stitches. And this is all we're doing, is we're doing an increase, and then we're going to simple stitch all the way across, just like normal simple. When we get to that edge stitch, we've only got the edge stitch left. We're going to do our increase, go into that edge stitch, and then complete our backward pass as normal. And even with this pattern as well, if you want to play around with how you do those increases, you can increase in any of the ways we've discussed so far. So as you can see, the stitch count is the same, right? So we're always increasing by 2. For each of these leaf patterns, we're increasing the same number, but it looks totally different, right? And if you're using the different methods of increasing, so maybe say you're using the back bar in some of them, maybe you're using the top bar, maybe you're using the lower bar. Any of those variations create a different style. So make sure that you are playing around with your different stitches, right? And how to increase looks totally different. This one kind of looks cleaner, but I do think that this one looks more realistic. So really up to you. Do play around with it. I do recommend that while you are doing your playing around with the different kinds of increasing, that's what all of these are on my leaves here, is because I wanted to make sure, let me cover up the decrease for next week, right? I wanted to make sure my increase for these was a yarn over, right? So this one, the increase for this one was I was using the top bar. are. And that way, when I go back to look at it and say, which one of these do I like better, which these look very similar, I will admit. If you did just a pull up through the space like a full stitch, that would look totally different as well. So play around with that. Come back next week where we will learn how to do these decreases in various ways as well. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to crocheting with you soon.